So I am Bill Rhine, owner of Rhine Enterprise and Rhine Built here in Denver, North Carolina. The easiest way to describe what we do here is we build toys, all kinds of cool toys. We have been restoring vintage stock cars, mainly, for the last 20 years. We also do vintage Can-Am, vintage Trans Am. We do a lot of custom builds for Toyota, for the NASCAR industry, as well as some fun stuff for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Went racing early, like 17 years old, we're NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro, and got into NASCAR early. Busch Grand National Series at the time, now Xfinity Series. I was the youngest crew chief in the Craftsman Truck Series in 2002. Just raced and raced and raced and raced. And when Adam Petty passed away, I decided that I was gonna go do some different things. I was gonna start the business, try to make my own money, see where it led to, and if not, I'd go back to work for race teams. Adam Petty to this day is still my favorite person in racing. I mean, just by far, hands down, best driver, person, everything. We started this. We started building show cars and marketing vehicles and crazy displays and stuff, and it's 20 years later, it's great. Why racing? Because racing is cool. I've loved it since I was, that big. And I grew up in South Miami, Florida, where there wasn't racing back then. And so because maybe it was so hard to find anything NASCAR racing, it became this hunt, this expedition to find racing. And so as soon as I was old enough, left Florida, moved to Georgia, left Georgia, South Carolina, just went wherever I needed to go to follow race cars. Favorite racing moment? Gosh, I don't know. It's really been like great all the way through. It's been a ton of work. It's been 100-hour weeks. It's been all weekends, and I mean, by any means, it hasn't been easy, but it's been awesome. So, is there a favorite moment? I couldn't pick one out. I really couldn't. I've loved all of it. I mean, I'm that big kid living my dream. I remember when I was a little kid and I wanted to be a team member in NASCAR, and then I was, and then I wanted to be a crew chief in NASCAR, and then I was when I helped out Billy Blues Craftsman Truck Team, and I wanted to own, old race cars. How cool would that be to own some old race cars? Well, I do, and through hard work and, trying to do it the right way all the time. We didn't do it the easy way. We did it the long and hard way, but I don't regret any of it. It's all been great. Just started out as property we were buying because I wanted a farm. So we bought a farm out there, cute little place, had the nice little building on it, and as we started collecting these cars, we needed a good, safe place to put them. And it's hidden out in the woods, it's well protected with the neighbors, and we don't do a whole lot with it. It's a rarity to let somebody in to film or shoot or whatnot. It's not a place that's open to the public. Before COVID, we did 6 to 8 military dinners a year, and we always take the military folks out there for a tour of the farm. We do 2 fun Medal of Honor dinners a year when the Charlotte races are in town, and they get tours of the farm. But it's just a safe place to store history. It's not only just cars, we try to save everything. One container is full of all the Jerry Stahl header stuff. The other container is full of all the Hutch and Pagan stuff when they shut down. The hoods, deck lids, fenders, quarter panels for these older cars that you wouldn't think it's a big deal, but like that Hawaiian Tropic car. It took us 3 months to find an Olds 442 that we could cut the body off of to put that car back together. I got a Bobby Allison LeSabre in the back room. I've been hunting for 8 months to find a T-type 87 LeSabre nose to get the bottom piece I needed. So this stuff's getting very hard to find. So when we find it, we suck it all up and we put it away. So the farm is just, it's a safe place where we store and basically rat hole and hide all this stuff. And it's fun for tours and events when we have our military dinners, and it's just kind of like my dream come true hidden out in the woods. As far as nowadays, what's a car out there that I'd love to have that's not in my collection? I would love to to find an original 1984 Terry Labonte Piedmont flatback Monte Carlo. That's the car that's probably been the most elusive. And I know where they all went. When they switched to front steers, they sold their rear steer cars to Papa Joe Hendrick, and they were used as show cars at Hendrick. So show cars dissipate quickly and disappear and become junk and garbage, and so I don't know if there's any of them left. We've never found one. We've never been able to prove one is real, you know, of the couple we've looked at. So yeah, I'd love to find a Terry Labonte Piedmont championship car. That would be a cool one to have in the collection. Our version of authentic is, if the guys who worked on it said it's real, it's real. Not if some guy on the internet says, oh, I can tell by this picture and this weld on this bar. That guy's a jackass. I'm sorry, but he's a jackass. If you weren't there and you didn't see it and you didn't build it, you don't know. And there is a ton of what my buddy calls keyboard commandos that try to tell you that everything's right and wrong, and they've never been in the industry and they've never done it. Hell, I don't know if they're real. Until those guys come and look at them, you know, my Earnhardt Wrangler Australian car. Until Doug Richard and Lou LaRosa and Marv Acton, those guys came and looked at it, and they all told me specific stories. And that's one thing that I look for. If a guy comes to you and says, oh yeah, that looks like ours, that's our car, that's iffy. But when the guy walks up and says, well, that car didn't race in '87 because in '87 we put the oil tank inside the car. In '86 we had the oil tank right here, and this and this and this is all 1986, and it's a very descriptive story. That's real, you know, and that's what we look for. We do take it very seriously because, you know, in my business, if I make a mistake and I sell one car that's wrong, it could ruin our reputation. And so I do take it very seriously. A lot of people don't, and the one thing that's hurt the value of the NASCARs in the last several years is how many fakes are out there. You know, when somebody says, oh, I found this real car and it's 30 grand, this restored original Cale Yarborough car and it's 30 grand. Well, you can't restore a Cale Yarborough car for 30 grand. So there's something wrong there, and common sense should tell you when this guy's trying to sell you this thing that something don't smell right, you know? The motor and transmission for that car, if done correctly, probably costs 30 grand. But you would be surprised how many times people call me and say, hey, I just bought this car. And I'm very fortunate because we've been in this business so long, we know where most of the stuff is. Oh, I just bought this car. Oh, great, you got this car from that guy. Oh yeah, how'd you know? Because we looked at that car 6 years ago and it's not real. Well, yes it is. Well, no, it's not. For these reasons, boom, 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 boom. Well, he said it was. Of course, he's trying to get money out of you. Yeah. Sorry, should have called me before you bought the car, you know? So we don't know everything, but I can, you know, pull from Tex Powell and Lou LaRosa and these brilliant race car guys that have been in it their whole life. And without them, I couldn't do this at all. I couldn't, you know? And so they are a great part of our business and our group of friends, because they're the reason all this happens. I have a lot of guys come up to me and they say, oh, well, you know, back in the 70s, they didn't build nice race cars. They were crude. They were to a point. But when all those teams in NASCAR were getting ready to go to the 1970 Daytona 500, they built the nicest thing they could build because they knew how important the 1970 Daytona 500 was, okay? So yes, they had crude tactics, maybe, because they didn't have the machine shop and the CNC shop and all that. But they still built the nicest thing they could take. And then once they got it there, if they had to kick in a fender or adjust or sort or whatever, you know, things got altered. And so, you know, you try to balance that. At least we do. You know, we want it shiny and pretty. 90% of the cars we find have to be restored. So you got to put them back shiny pretty. When you can find one that's like the AJ Foyt cars that don't, yeah, they're not the prettiest thing, but they're still real. As raced. And that's huge, because you don't find that very often. I mean, nobody saved race cars. People will tell you, I have people tell me all the time, they say, well, you know, they built so many NASCARs, so they're not collectible. Yes, in 2000 and up, they built tons of them. But back in 1984, a good team may have had 4 cars. Maybe 5, but most likely 3 or 4. So there wasn't that many of them. And because NASCAR's never had logbooks like your SCCA and your Can-Am and your Trans Am stuff, nobody ever saved them. These weren't intended to be saved. And so when you find a NASCAR, to me, it's more valuable than your Trans Am or your Can-Am or your this and that, because There was never a documented history on that. So one, when you do find it, it's harder to prove it, and it ain't supposed to still be here. We get a lot of interns in here that they do. Why don't I have all this right now? They want to be the boss when they walk in the door. And I've actually had some interns tell me, we don't do the shit jobs. We want to do this. I want to build engines. Well, you can't build engines unless you take engines apart. You can't hang sides on a car and English wheel fenders until you know how to make crush panels, or until you know how to properly cut a side off a car where you don't destroy the piece you need to save and just pull the piece you need to remove off. So we run into that a lot. And so what none of those kids see when they act like that or when they say those stupid things, and usually we get rid of them pretty quick after that, they didn't see the 17 years, 20 years that Bill Rhine didn't go out on Friday night, didn't go out on Saturday night unless he was at the racetrack, didn't go partying with his friends, was always here doing something, learning something. When I got into NASCAR, when I was super young, my rule of thumb was, if I work twice as many hours as you do today, then I learn twice as much as you do. And it was nothing for me to work 100 hours a week for years, over and over and over again. And you had your racing friends, but you had no life outside of racing. And for me, that was fine because it's what I wanted. I wanted all this as quick as I could. And if you don't want all this, that's fine. But don't complain that you don't have it if you're not willing to put in those hours. And if the guy you go to work for sees that you really, truly want it and you're not scared to work, they'll most likely teach you anything and everything you want to know. As soon as they get if they get a wisp that you really don't care, then they don't care, and they'll never teach you anything. So when you get that opportunity, that rare opportunity to get into one of these shops and work with these guys, shut your mouth, do your job, and listen. And those guys will teach you all kinds of stuff. You will be rewarded, but it's a lot of work. People ask me every now and then, is there anything in racing you miss because you're not directly involved anymore? Yes, I miss from green flag to checkered flag because that's still pure. No politics, no BS, that's still pure racing. And it doesn't matter if it's your sprint car, your NASCAR, your whatever, that's still what we go for. All the stuff before and after and changing this and rules that and fines and penalties and all the silly crap is crap. I understand why it's there, but this is still the pure sport. When the Romans started the chariot race, it was a pure sport. 9 guys started, 3 guys finished. That was, and so there still is that from green flag to checkered flag, and that's what I miss. Doing this and not racing full time. My favorite motorsports other than NASCAR, it doesn't exist anymore. I love Mickey Thompson off-road stadium truck racing. That was the coolest thing on the planet. And when I was a kid, man, I would watch that every time it came on TV. And all BS aside, when I was a kid, I remember sitting in my living room and watching this kid named Jimmy Johnson in a naturally fresh buggy air over these double jumps, hit on the damn front bumper of the buggy, barrel roll the buggy onto its wheels, went from first to third, and then drove past everybody and won the race, and had no clue who Jimmy Johnson was. That's just, wow, that kid's amazing. I saw that race live, sitting at home in Miami, and loved it. That was one of the coolest forms of motorsports I've ever seen. I mean, if they want to buy, if they're interested in cars, even if they have questions, we got a lot of people just call us. We don't make money on phone calls, we just answer phone calls, because I don't want somebody to buy a car and 3 years from now they realize it's fake and they're mad and they're upset. That's not cool for anybody. So we do get a lot of phone calls like that, and I try to get back to as many people as possible. Again, I can't sit in the office all day because I don't make my money then. But we're easy to get a hold of on the phone. Somebody will answer, take a message, I'll call you back, we'll help you any way we can, even if it's just information. That's my best option there. I like phone calls. There we go. I'm Bill Rhine, and I am PRI.